I love the Final Fantasy games. They've always managed to capture me with their stories and characters. And while they may not be the most ingenious plotlines, they are always incredibly heartfelt and entertaining. So, when I was exploring the World Wide Web and stumbled across an article on IGN claiming that all of the Final Fantasy games were connected with the same plotline, I had to step in and set some things straight. First off, I need to state there is no chronological order to play the Final Fantasy games. Though they share the same title and themes, unless it states specifically in the title, no Final Fantasy is connected directly. For example, the first Final Fantasy does not continue into Final Fantasy II. Yes, the summons and fantasy setting are the same, but that is usually where the parallels end. Granted, there are exceptions to this. Take Final Fantasy X, for example, since it's probably the easiest to follow. Final Fantasy X-2, or X2 if you're looking at the title, does take place after Final Fantasy X, just like 13, 13-2, and 13-2 Lightning Returns. All of those are connected, as well as Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII Before Crisis, and then the remakes are technically... My point is that if they are connected, they have the same number in the title. So, if you come across this article or anything like it, please keep in mind, you can start at any Final Fantasy you would like. There are a few options I would recommend for people wanting to try Final Fantasy for themselves. Though I do have to warn you, these games are incredibly long. Some of the shortest Final Fantasies I've played through ended up being 25 to 30 hours. So, for starters, for people who are drawn into Final Fantasy by the cool new combat systems, I would recommend Final Fantasies 15 and 16. While the Final Fantasy VII remake and all of its parts are very good, they do have a fair few changes to the story that you probably wouldn't understand unless you at least watch a breakdown of the original first. For people who like turn-based strategy, there are a lot more options open to you. If you want a really good story, but don't necessarily like the art style of the NES era, I would highly recommend Final Fantasy VIII and X. Both of these have incredibly heartbreaking stories and massive worlds to explore, and with both of these I can nearly guarantee that you will be pulled in by the first cutscene. And finally, for people who just want to experience Final Fantasy at its best, Final Fantasy IV, VI, and VII are amazing options. All three of these have some of the greatest story and atmosphere in the franchise, and to this day, I still think they captured exactly what they wanted to do with these installments. All in all, Final Fantasy is a fantastic franchise with countless hours to get lost in. My first recommendation will always be my favorite from the franchise, Final Fantasy X. But each and every installment has its own charm, and every person who plays Final Fantasy will find their own favorite eventually. While I can't speak much for Final Fantasy XI, Final Fantasy XIV is a fantastic MMO that definitely deserves its place as one of the top games in that genre. And while I would never recommend IGN as a source of actual information, it's always fun to look at them for some entertainment from time to time. So, thank you all so much for watching. Keep an eye out for more of these in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one.